Ready, I'll call this meeting to order. 8:30. Go ahead and start with the agenda. We'll start with the executive director and doing the public disclaimer and roll call, please.
Good morning. Notice of the February meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission, including the date, time, and location, has been noticed on the TREC website since September 15th, 2023. Additionally, this month's agenda has been posted on the website since Tuesday, February 13th. Individuals who wish to make a public comment on an item listed on the posted agenda during the scheduled public comment period will need to sign in on the provided sign-in sheet or by placing their name in the chat box online. It is requested that comments be limited to 3 minutes out of respect for other speakers. To those joining us virtually, please remain on mute. Those joining us virtually are here for informal appearances. I will now call the roll of commissioners. Chair Diaz.
Here.
Vice Chair Ferris.
Here.
Vice Chair Moffitt. Commissioner Moffitt. Commissioner Begley.
Here.
Commissioner Torbett. Commissioner Gwynn.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Tucker. Commissioner Gahn. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I'll ask Commissioner Ferris, our vice chair, to do the prayer and pledge.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day that you have created. We thank you for the sunshine and the freedom to gather here today. Help us to be wise in our communication and diligent in our thinking and thoughtful of all the details that come before us today. Thank you for each individual that works for the state who prepares these meetings for us. And for us all, Lord, may you receive the glory and not any of us. And we seek to give you honor and praise this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 So, commissioners, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. The agenda was emailed to us earlier a few days ago. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I have 2 requests for the agenda today.
Go ahead.
During the legal report, we need to add a talking point. During the legal consent agenda and legal report, we need to add bond request to that section. And then we also need to remove Brenda Crabtree under waiver request.
Any other amendments or changes? Hearing none, is there a motion? I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Tucker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. On to the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments or changes to the minutes? Any changes or amendments to the minutes?
Move to approve January's minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from January's meeting by Commissioner DJ Ferris, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, we move on to informal appearances. Ms. Baker, please tell us about candidate A.
May I call roll for the informal appearances to make sure everyone is present with their principal broker?
Please do.
Matthew Bowling, are you present?
Yes, I am present with my principal broker.
Patrick Welch is with you?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Candidate B, April Perwitz.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Thank you. And your principal broker, Tamara Sen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Candidate C, Paul Williams with principal broker Bobby Hill.
Yes, we're here. We're present.
Thank you. Candidate D, Brian Haas and principal broker Caitlin Hamby.
Yes, we're both present.
Thank you. Lastly, for informal appearances, candidate E, Nolan Starnes with principal broker Bobby Gobble.
Yes, ma'am. We're here.
Your principal broker is with you as well? Okay, very good. Thank you. With
Thank
candidate
you.
Thank you. With candidate A, Matthew Bowling with principal broker Patrick Welsh. Candidate Bowling has not taken the affiliate broker exams. He is here before us today due to an attempt to deliver more than 0.5 grams of a Schedule II controlled substance, cocaine. Mr. Bowling's statement and letters of recommendation can be found on your iPad.
Thank you. Mr. Bowling, and for everybody listening on the informal appearances, the candidates will have a brief amount of time to tell us the reasons that they are appearing before us today, and each broker will be given some time to explain why they are sponsoring this specific candidate to join their firm, after which commissioners will be able to ask questions, and when the questions are exhausted, we will vote. And depending on the results of that vote, we'll decide whether you're allowed to proceed and obtain your license. So with that, candidate A, please go ahead and explain to the commissioners what brings you before us today.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I am here today because I have a prior felony conviction, and I am seeking approval to proceed. My conviction was in 2014 for charges, as mentioned, for delivery of greater than 0.5 grams of cocaine. That arrest happened in 2012. There's also a DUI in 2014. That's chapter of my life. It was unfortunate. I have since moved on. I have completed all the terms of my probation. That expired in April 17 of 2022. In that time, I've established multiple careers. I worked for Wakefield and Associates for approximately 9 years. I also have invested in real estate. I've been a contributing member of the Sequoia Square Homeowners Association, of which I was president for 5 years. I have migrated into working in real estate and property management on the maintenance side. And I am here today to seek approval to move forward with getting a real estate license. I enjoy working in real estate very much, and I think I would be a contributing member to the professional society of real estate brokers.
Thank you so much. Is there any questions for Mr. Bowling from commissioners? Hearing none, we'll go ahead, Mr. Welsh, if you want to explain to us why you're sponsoring Mr. Bowling.
Yes, Mr. Bowling has been in my employment for over the last year as a maintenance coordinator. We manage about 100 properties, single family, around the greater Knoxville area. I've known Mr. Bowling just close to 20 years now, and since the time of his felony, I've also known seen that he has been rehabilitated. He's trustworthy, honest, and an upstanding citizen, in my opinion. I trust him with the things around my office and with our clients' properties. And so that's why I am sponsoring him.
All right, is there any questions for Mr. Welsh? Hearing none, commissioners, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Begley to approve this candidate, seconded by Commissioner Gahn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Bowling, and good luck.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
You're free to stay on the line and listen to the rest of the meeting, or you can go about your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Baker, candidate B.
Hi, we have Miss April Perwitz and Principal Broker Tamara Sandobaldi. She has not taken the affiliate broker exams. She is before us today due to a retail theft charge, with restricted consent order from Wisconsin Real Estate Commission regarding these charges. Her statement and letters of recommendation can be found on your iPads.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Perwitz.
Good morning.
Go ahead and explain to the commission why you are here with us today.
Sure. So I'm here today. I've been a realtor for the past 5 years in Wisconsin. I recently just moved to Tennessee, which I am really enjoying. So I'm coming before you guys today. I have some criminal charges on my background, 2 from 2009. Years later, another theft, and then 2 years ago, a DUI, which put me on a stipulation order when I first got my real estate license in Wisconsin. So that stipulation order in Wisconsin expires in April. So I'm really just coming before you guys and asking you for a fresh start in Tennessee, full licensure. I have never had any unsafe incidences happen with any of my clients. I have a passion for real estate. I'm a very reliable, trustworthy person. All of these issues are surrounded by some addiction issues and recovery. I am long since recovered in that instance, and I do personal things to maintain my sobriety, which are a lot of involvement in my church, therapy, meetings, and things like that. So, yeah, just coming before you guys today to just request a real estate license in Tennessee. I'm really excited. Everyone has been extremely kind to me so far, and I've encountered nothing but really kind people so far. So I'm really excited to start my career in Tennessee, and I'm just hoping that I can have the same respect for my clients and in my business in Wisconsin that I do in Tennessee.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Ms. Sandobaldi, go ahead and explain why you're sponsoring Ms. Perwitz.
We have met with Ms. Perwitz on a few occasions. I have talked with her personally. I have discussed her with our team leader, Angel Johnson, who brought April before me. Between all of us, plus our Agent Leadership Council, we feel that April is more than ready to get her feet under her here in Tennessee. We have a wonderful support system in our office to make sure that she doesn't stumble, that she'll have plenty of support. If there's any questions that she needs, we'll be sure to answer and help her with anything that she needs, either personally or professionally. So we feel very lucky to know her. She comes with great recommendations from her former broker, and we think she'll do very well with us.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Sandobaldi? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve this candidate, April Perwitz.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ferris to approve this applicant, seconded by Commissioner Tucker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Perwitz, and good luck.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Baker, candidate C, please.
Thank you. We have Mr. Paul Williams and his principal broker, Bobby Hill. He has not taken, he has taken and passed the affiliate broker exams. He is before us today due to a felony non-support of dependents. Mr. Williams' statement and letter of recommendation can be found on your iPads.
Mr. Williams, please
Yes, sir.
Please describe the circumstances that brings us before you today.
I first want to say thank you for the opportunity and say good morning to everyone. I'm here for a felony for $2,500 in child support from 2019. And what occurred was I pursued a career of 1,800 hours in barber school, and I fell behind in my support. And throughout the process, I was keeping in contact with the agent, letting them know, hey, I can only pay what I can pay throughout the time with my financial aid, and what led me to passing barber school. And recently, in 2019, I believe in 2020, I have completed and complied with all the measurements of court to pay the $2,500. My daughter now is 18 years old. She's on her way to college. I also have a son that's 21 years old. I'm actually 41 years old. And so from 2019 to now, I'm happily married, still a newlywed. And I just want to say thank you guys for the opportunity. And I just want to be able to have an opportunity to provide for my wife and kids and be a good example for them, to show them that, hey, you're going to have some tough times in life, but you still got to keep going forward. And they were there, especially my wife was there every step of the way, as far as completing the test, which took me 4 months. But I didn't know that child support for $2,500 was a felony. But, I mean, in Ohio, they do things different. But I want to just say thank you guys for the opportunity to share the story and giving me an opportunity to become an agent and provide for my family, but not just my family, the community as well. And I also want to say thank you, Mr. Bobby Hill, for being help being here to represent with me, and thank the board for, being here to allow me to speak.
So, Mr. Williams, just so I understand, you're clear of any child support obligations then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other commissioners have questions? Hearing none. Mr. Hill, please explain to the commission why you're sponsoring this candidate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commission, and everything. So glad to see y'all today and appreciate the work y'all do. I've met with Paul several times. He explained the situation. Have been a divorced father and paid my child support and everything, and sometimes it's very hard to do. We all struggle. We've had recession for 5 years, in 2007 to 12 or 13. We've had the COVID epidemic, and this world's not the same as it used to be, and we do run across tough times. But I have talked to Paul several times. He seems very remorse as far as doing that. He's caught up on it. He did everything he needed to do, and sounds like he got a great daughter. And I think he'll be a great agent here with us at Crye-Leike.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Hill? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion approved by Commissioner Gwynn, seconded by Commissioner Ferris to approve this applicant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Williams, and good luck.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Next, we have candidate D, Mr. Brian Haas, and principal broker Caitlin Hamby. He has taken and passed the affiliate broker exams. He is before us today due to a felony aggravated robbery. Mr. Haas's statement and letter of recommendation can be found on your iPads.
Good morning, Mr. Haas.
Good morning.
Go ahead and please tell us what brings you before us today.
Okay. 2008, I was charged with aggravated robbery, a storefront. During that time frame, I was married. We're going through some difficult times. I was laid off work. So I went down a path of addiction, and home life wasn't that well. So I kind of resorted to a negative crowd, in which I take full accountability for. And I immediately realized that was not the lifestyle I wanted to live. It's not my genuine nature. So to sum it up, after, I went with the courts and I took my plea agreement. I served right at 4 years before I was able to make parole. During that time frame, I took every available program, class. I read endless psychology and philosophy books. I was privileged to get a job with the chaplain of the facility I was at, and I was his clerk, which opened many doors for me with our volunteers, mentors, the administrative staff. So, I mean, I'm very grateful for that aspect of it. I was able to stay in contact with my children every weekend because I was close to home. It was a very stressful time, but, you know, of all the things that could have happened, you know, it turned out, you know, for the good, I feel. And, sorry. After making parole, I had about 6.5 years to do on paper. During that time frame, it was really hard getting started. I was turned down many places trying to find an employment, but I had started at a restaurant part-time just as a food runner. I quickly moved my way up to general manager within 2 years, just off the integrity and drive that they saw in me. And, you know, fast forward a little bit of time, you know, I remarried. We had another child, and I don't know. I know I left a lot out, I'm sure, as far as progression and all that, but I just, you know, and now I also have a couple of side businesses I'm running. I do work full time. So I have everything in motion for me to keep moving forward and excelling in life. And I just want to be an example of what, you know, TDOC can offer. And if you take the initiative and turn your life around, that there is opportunity out there. It just takes a lot of drive and willpower and just determination, you know, just, so I'm greatly appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to sit in front of you today. If you have any questions, I'm an open door.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Haas?
Thanks for sharing, Mr. Haas. So, did you say that you still volunteer and do work with TDOC?
No, not currently, no.
Okay.
I would like to get back in that realm. I'm actually in psychology class and all that at Nashville State. That's where my heart leads me to be with people, and I would like to have some kind of structure as time permits, you know, to help assist people returning back to the community, and also with my side business that I'm kind of getting going now. I would like to have some kind of structure, you know, when I can have the workflow, some kind of workflow where I can help people return back to the community and have a successful life.
Okay, what kind of side business are you starting?
Well, it's in motion, but it's just slow because I have a W-2 that consumes about 45, 50 hours of my week. But it's an exterior cleaning business for commercial and residential, pressure wash, soft wash,
Yeah.
And I also do bounce houses on the side.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Mr. Haas, I think you have the record for most recommendations. So seems like a lot of people believe in you. And sitting here listening to you and talking to you and reading what you presented to us, you've been a huge turnaround, and I think you'll be very successful.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Haas? Hearing none. Ms. Hamby, please explain to the commission why you're sponsoring Mr. Haas.
Yep, so he's actually coming in to join one of our teams, so he'll already be surrounded by great support and accountability. Already thus far, he has been very responsible in showing up to anything and everything that's been asked of him. He's always been on time and has shown great integrity. We have a lot of great support and training and coaching available to be a resource for him, and we are excited to help him further the journey that he wants to pursue and reach the goals that he has of helping other people.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Hamby? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gahn, seconded by Commissioner Bagley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Haas, and good luck.
Thank you.
Baker, candidate E, please.
Lastly, for informal appearances, we have candidate E. Nolan Starnes with principal broker Bobby Gobble. He has taken and passed the affiliate broker exams. He is before us today due to a violation of probation. Mr. Starnes' statement and letter of recommendation can be found on the iPads.
Mr. Starnes, please go ahead and tell us the circumstances that brings you before us today.
Yes, sir. Around 2015, I took a plea agreement for a misdemeanor child abuse and neglect charge, and it was of my son. Basically, me disciplining my own son. He was 9 or 10 around that time. I think the incident actually happened in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, my wife at the time basically, came to me and told me that, my son had caught her fat, and it's not her biological son, so she was his stepmother pretty much. And so, I was disciplined with the belt growing up, back in those days, even if we, needed it in class, we was paddled as students, so I just didn't know any other way to deal with that or to handle that. I just know I didn't want my son disrespecting his elders. I know that's just, I couldn't have that. I gave him 4 licks with the belt, but they gave me 4 counts of misdemeanor child abuse and neglect. But I was sentenced to probation. Did 4 years of probation. During that probation period, I took a parenting class. I took an anger management class. Sometime, I think in 2016, I had a dispute with my wife at our home, where the police had showed up. I didn't, that was thrown out, but I forgot to report that to the probation officer within 72 hours. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess that caused a violation that was thrown out, and it was just me not really remembering to report it within a 72-hour time period. But since then, my wife, after that dispute, my wife and I was encouraged to get evaluated, mental health and everything through the courts, because there was just some issues we was dealing with. We couldn't really identify where was it coming from, what was going on. But anyway, my wife was diagnosed with chronic depression, which is a long-term mental disease. And of course, it didn't just happen overnight. It's something that she had been dealing with, and that pretty much led to our divorce. Because she didn't want to take her therapy and take her meds and everything. So, with that being said, it was a little bigger. The situation with my son was a little bigger because I had the issue with my marriage pretty much. But anyway, I have refereed and officiated school sports for over 20 years, since 1998. So, I've coached as well, basketball, all sorts of sports. I also have a community organization that I founded in 2009 called All In All Stars. And so it's a youth mentoring program. I teach the youth STEM and everything. And I also farm through that organization. I wanted to get certified in agriculture some kind of way so I could teach the youth how to farm. And so I took numerous cooperative extension courses with the state. I do currently farm. I actually bought my property from Mr. Gobble here, and several years ago. I also ran for mayor of Nashville in 2019. I'm very proud of that. Didn't have a whole lot of supporters. I took $500 of my own money, and out of 10 candidates, I had the 5th highest votes. So, my level of service in the community of Nashville, Davidson County, man, I mean, I've done a lot of service there. I put on community gardens, urban farms. I mentored the youth in summer camps for a few years in the community that I grew up in. A lot of this stuff was out of my pocket and whatever donations I could get. So serving is what I do. And now I would just like the opportunity to, take my service to another level and just make it my profession.
Thanks so much. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Starnes? Hearing none, Mr. Gobble, tell us about your sponsorship of Mr. Starnes, please.
Mr. Gobble, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself, please. You're still on mute.
Hold on,
There you go.
let me try to fix them real. Hold on.
Okay, am I good now?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I met Noah about 5 years ago, sold him a piece of property. He turned out to be a good customer, and I've been watching him ever since. I've been watching him with his property. He does a good job with it. And as you have heard his speech, he's a good boy, and we appreciate him, and glad to be able to sponsor.
Any questions for Mr. Gobble? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith to approve this applicant, seconded by Commissioner Ferris. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Starnes, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
And as is the case with everybody else, if you want to stay on and listen, you're welcome to, or you can go about your day. Ms. Baker, we have some waiver requests to get through.
Yes, sir. We have 5 waiver requests this morning. Our first waiver request is Hernette McKinney. She seeks waiver of penalties due to medical care and would like to remain retired. Her license expired March 13th, 2023. Ms. McKinney had a stroke and her husband retired her license. However, he did not renew the license while it was in retirement. Her statement can be found on your iPads.
Commissioners?
Ask a question. Recently, at one of our meetings, we talked about you guys kind of culling some stuff. Was it medical waivers that we talked about? What was it that we talked about? You all remember that? That you all wanted to know if we wanted to see more of it or less of it, or how to handle it. What were we discussing at that time? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We were talking about waivers specifically related to individuals that had a need so let me pull up the specific rule citation. Hold on. So it states in the rule that individuals can request a waiver of expired fees if they have trying to find a specific language. Hold on one second. It's not this.
A question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
$1,000. What is that? How do we get to that number?
It's $100 per month.
Okay. After a certain period of time?
And if you're one day.
So you have how many days do you have before it ratchets up that high?
12 months.
12 months.
Were they reminded through that 12 months? How remind me of the schedule of how people are communicated with.
3 months prior to a license expiring, you are mailed a postcard in order to renew your license. We believe that the onus is on licensees to know when their license expired or will be expiring, just as you do car insurance or homeowners insurance or anything else. And so we do have a mail out that goes out 90 days prior to a license expiring. You would be surprised about how many licensees do not know their license expiration date. But with that being said, she is here before us today because she was under medical care and was unaware that her license was indeed expired.
She wants to go to retirement status?
Correct. That's what she says in her statement. And it will also prevent her from having to retest in the future if she keeps her license up in retirement status. So every 2 years, she'll still have to pay a renewal fee while her license is in retirement.
Does she have to do CE during those retirement?
No, sir.
Okay, just the fee.
Correct.
Which is like
$75.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I sad to hear what she's been experiencing, and I'm inclined to move to waive their fee.
Other questions or discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to waive the fee.
Is there a second? Motion by Commissioner Ferris to waive the fee, seconded by Commissioner Gahn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? I assume that motion passes
There's some coffee
unanimously.
back there if anybody's here.
That was pretty neat. Passes unanimously.
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have Miss Allison Norton. She seeks waiver of penalties due to lapse of E&O insurance and would like her license reinstated to retired. Miss Norton's license was put in broker release status on November 21st, 2018. During broker release status, it did not get transferred into retirement. So she still had active E&O until 2019, when she was suspended due to lack of E&O insurance. And then several months later in 2020, January 31st of 2020, her license was revoked because her license was in active status. However, she was broker released, so she wasn't technically in a firm. She is seeking her license to be reinstated to retired and no longer in revoked status from 2020. Her statement can be found on your iPads.
In her statement, she talks about wanting her license set to inactive so she can get her license in Alabama.
Correct.
I heard you correctly. You said 2018.
That is correct. She was placed in broker release status in 2018 and never placed her license in retirement.
Never got on with another broker.
That is correct.
So she's requesting the fee be waived, not anything else that we're doing to make her license retired. So like she could pay the fee and get this accomplished also?
She didn't make mention of the fee at all. We really don't have a mechanism for a fee over 12 months. Considering her license was originally revoked in 2020 and it is now 2024. But I'm assuming if you guys wanted to place a fee in order for her license to then be reinstated, she hasn't taken any CE here to my knowledge during that time.
And as I read their letter, she's seeking just to have this moved on the record in Tennessee to be inactive, just so the Alabama Commission can initiate their process of issuing a license. And in that situation, I would be supportive of doing that on our end to move it to inactive if we can, and wishing her the best in Alabama in her real estate career as she proceeds with the Alabama Real Estate Commission, knowing that if she ever came back to Tennessee, she would have to begin the process again. And
So she would need to retest and reapply. You wouldn't
in Tennessee, she would, or I wouldn't think at that time I would be inclined as a commissioner to require a fee because at that time, because it just doesn't seem like that's her path. But she's asking. I think she's asking for. No, I think she's asking.
Waiver of penalties due to lapse of E&O.
Yeah, but like the main thing it sounds like is, in order to obtain an Alabama real estate license, the Alabama Commission requires no previous license revocation in any other state. Thus, the status of my Tennessee license as it stands now will negatively affect. So, for these reasons, I hereby ask that the Commission grant a medical exception in this situation and modify the status of my Tennessee real estate license from revoked to inactive. I suppose we could say, no, we can do that, but you have to pay a fine, but I'm not inclined to collect a fine from her due to the medical hardship she's undergone.
Like she's already she's being asked to pay $1,100 to get her back to.
If the commission so chooses. She's currently in revoked status due to lack of E&O insurance when she was broker released. You're only supposed to be in broker release for about 10 days, so the onus should have been on her to place her license then in retirement if she wasn't going to go to another firm.
But she should have known that she was revoked when she started down the Alabama path to get her license.
It's my understanding.
She knew that she had been revoked in Tennessee. So somewhere along the way, it seems to me like she said, wait a minute. If I'm going to get my Alabama license, I've been revoked in Tennessee. It's going to cost me money to get square with Tennessee, correct?
It appears that's what she discovered as
So, I mean, let's go back to the whole issue, though. The license was revoked. So she essentially has no license in Tennessee right now.
Correct.
But because it was revoked, it's blocking her from getting her Alabama license.
Right.
That is what she tells us. I assume Alabama has a mechanism, much like we do for informal appearances and hearings, that she could possibly undergo in Alabama, but I can't say that for certain. Because
So is there a license to move to inactive status? I guess is the question. Can we do that?
That's why we're bringing it to the commission for guidance. Because she has.
So you could do it if we agreed.
Could we do it in the computer system?
Yes.
Well, I mean, she was licensed since 2003. Is there any record of any complaints or formal consents or consent orders? So, yeah.
Did she? I mean, what was her? Did she say? I didn't read in her statement that she had any understanding of what her license status was since 2018. Did she know it was revoked?
She was mailed a letter saying her license was not only revoked but suspended as well, and we mailed it to the address that we have on file for Miss Norton.
No communication at all.
No
And
communication.
try to resolve it at all.
Until in January.
Until she decided she wanted to work in Alabama.
That is correct.
So if next year she comes back to Tennessee and her license is inactive, what does she have to do to?
She would need to retest and reapply in order to be an agent here in the state of Tennessee.
Do the other commission members think we need to have a fine on her file at that time for her to pay if she comes back to Tennessee?
Well, hold on. Let's get a motion and then we can continue discussion. So, does anybody want to take a shot at a motion? I got a motion to approve this request. Is there a second?
Second.
I got a motion to approve by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Ferris. Any discussion?
We have a point of discussion.
I'm not sure if she can go into inactive status without retesting, reapplying, and paying the penalty. Because in order to go into inactive status or retirement, your license needs to be in good standing. Otherwise, we would have individuals moving from revoked to inactive all the time.
And that speaks to Commissioner Gahn's point. That we don't want to necessarily set that precedent of people going from revoked to inactive and then a year, 6 months, 2 years later becoming an active agent without paying a penalty, without retesting or reapplying or any consequences for allowing 4 to 6 years pass without knowing the status of your real estate license.
Do we know what part of Alabama she seeks to work in?
I do not. I do not.
If it's in the northern part of the state, Huntsville, Florence, Decatur, Athens, Rogersville, I mean, all those places, then I might be more persuaded to say, well, yeah, because you could have an opportunity to work in Tennessee, and therefore you need to make the steps to make sure your status is in good standing in Tennessee. But if she's moving to Gulf Shores, I think it's a burden to make her.
So
I look at it as two separate issues, really. I look at it as we have an individual that has a revoked license and outstanding E&O penalties, and then we have an individual who also has a license that has been expired for over 1 year, because her license has been expired since 2020. Or in 2024. So, of course, it's in your discretion to waive the civil penalty, like the penalty amount related to E&O due to medical reasons. I think that's fine. But we do have the rule that relates to your license being suspended for over a year, stating that you have to retest and reapply. But also, when your license is revoked, you are required to retest and reapply, but the commission has the ability and the discretion to waive that as well.
I mean,
so if we wanted to, generally, allow this woman to seek her license in Alabama free and clear, we'd have to carry the water and waive all of our requirements.
Not necessarily, because we don't know the rules and regulations of the state of Alabama. So I think that's independent of a conversation that needs to be had today, because
I don't think we need to know.
I think this is what you could do. So, all right, if this is what the commission is wanting to do. So we have, if we go into our statutory books, E&O is listed in 6213-112, which is around page 19 or 20, depending on your books. By the way, Nothing.
What you said was 62 what?
13,112.
Page 23 in the green book, in the red book. 23.
So it states, and we're looking at L1, section L. So L states, a license suspended for more than 1 year pursuant to this section shall be automatically revoked without any further action by the commission. And so we did too. We sent the letters, and then they can request a formal hearing, but also an individual can, and it states upon revocation of a license, any individual seeking reissuance of such license states they shall reapply for licensure and pay the penalty fees, provided, however, that the commission may, in its discretion, A, waive re-examination or additional education requirements for such applicant, or B, reinstate subject to the applicant's compliance with such conditions as the commission may prescribe, including but not limited to payment of a penalty fee, in addition to the penalty fee provided above, or of not more than $100 per month or any portion thereof from the time of revocation. So technically what could be done here is that the individual, if you wanted to put her license from the revoked status, what Miss Norton would need to likely do is, this statute says here, she's required to reapply for licensure and pay the penalty fees. But then the commission, you can waive re-examination or additional requirements for such applicant, or reinstate this a license subject to their compliance with such reasonable conditions. So you can do either or, and related to the license revocation. So it doesn't look like we can waive testing and the penalty together. Looks like you can waive the testing or the penalty. But first, what she would need to do is to reapply for licensure and pay the penalty fees. And so if you decide to waive it, it would be refunded back to her, essentially. And then if you were to decide, okay, that's what we're going to do, then she would need to retest. And then essentially what would happen then at that point, her license would be set back to active, and it could be put into inactive at that point, which I think is the only, I don't think there's really a mechanism in which we can waive everything. You can do kind of one or the other. It's just kind of, it's what you want to, how you want to move the license.
But the record of her previous license being revoked would still exist.
Right. That's never going to go away. It'll show that it was revoked, but now her license been moved to active.
According to her statement, that's not previous revocation.
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate.
The circumstances, we can't remove previous licensure history.
Hey, just looking at the timeline, for me, it seems like she had no care in the world about maintaining her license until she decided she wanted to work at Alabama, and then now it's a problem. And she's looking for us to erase her earlier decision to not care about her Tennessee license. That's my position on it.
Out of curiosity, does Tennessee have a similar relocation provision on licensure?
Yes. If there's discipline in another state, they come before the commission during informal appearances.
Right.
We had one today from Wisconsin, for example.
Right.
Wisconsin.
But does it say, if you, like what she's saying, Alabama says?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, we don't know the rules and regulations
Right.
in Alabama. I assume that there is a mechanism for her to go before the commission in Alabama to explain her situation with Tennessee, but we can only assume that because we have that process here in Tennessee. That's why I think that's an independent discussion. I think what Tennessee needs to do is decide how we want to pursue and treat this waiver request, independent of anything else she has going on in any other state.
Right.
Right. There's nothing we can do to remove the revocation. Like that's a moot point.
So if my license was revoked at this point, I'd just let it slip for 4 or 5 years. I pay my fees. I go take the test, reapply. I can get back to active status, right?
Right. And then if you would like to appeal to the commission would have the ability to, one, waive reexamination and CE if that's required, or two, waive the penalty amounts.
So there are people that have just not done it correctly, but have gone through the process and paid their fees, retested, and got their license back.
After they are presented before the board for discussion.
So they don't have to be presented, do they?
Right. No, if their license is revoked,
You tell them how to get it back.
right, we tell them what is required, retest, reapply, pay. That's what they do.
So my only discussion here is, I mean, I don't know, everything in life, there's ebbs and flows, but in recent months, it seems like we've kind of opened the floodgates to a lot of requests, and I don't know how you kind of rein that in, but I mean, I think we're going to get more and more because we seem to be we don't turn any down. So I don't know why I'm jabbering, but at the same time, it seems like we have a lot this month, and like I said, it could just be a coincidence, but I think we're going to have to figure out our direction and how we're going to handle this, because we can't, just.
So I still have a hard time
Also-
getting past the amount of time that has passed.
Yes. Also, to follow up on your previous question related to what you were stating before about the specific waivers that we were wondering if you wanted to delegate, that was related specifically to late fees for renewal of license, and the term was for good cause shown. So that is, as not specifically defined in the rules, but that was what we had discussed previously. So it's separate and apart from our medical waivers because it's in our fees section of our rules.
So we do have a motion on the floor for approval. Ms. Smith, you still going to carry that motion? Go ahead and vote. So just to remind everybody, the motion is to approve this waiver. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. I know we can't do both. So.
All those opposed?
No.
All right, so that motion fails on a 1 yes, 6 no vote.
It looks like to me there are two issues, like you said. There's the waiver, and then there's the $1,100 for the lapse, and then the penalty. So
Well, it sounds to me like even if we go through those contortions to do this, the fact that she had a license revoked in Tennessee is not going to go away. She's going to be issued a new license, but under her name, there's going to be a license that says it was revoked on such and such day. So that doesn't resolve her Alabama issue regardless. So I don't know if there's anything for us to do to help her out of this situation.
But we don't know what. I'm gonna with Denise assume that there's a way she can present this to the Alabama Commission, and it may not be an issue to them at that time. So
That's what I think she should do.
yeah, I think she's trying to do that, and I know we have modified fines. So, I mean, I would be since that motion failed. I mean, if I'm just not going to sit up here and say, yeah, before you can work in, I'm just going to pull out the middle of the state, Jefferson County. Before you go down to work in Birmingham, you got to come back or take online a test in Tennessee. I think that's a burden.
She wouldn't have to go to Tennessee to take the test. She could do it via computer.
And I corrected myself. You're right. You could do it online, but still, I think that's a burden. That y'all can vote to do that, and that's fine, but that's just not my standpoint. I would move to reduce the fine to $10, $100, something.
For the E&O penalty?
Yeah.
On the E&O? That's what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So if we don't formally, say we deny this motion, and we don't formally direct y'all to say anything, and this person communicates with you next week and says, hey, how'd it go? And you're just like, here's how it went. They think you should go to Alabama, present the same information.
I don't think we would mention Alabama in our response. We would say what we can do as the Tennessee Real Estate Commission.
Well,
And
if they can present the same information to the board there, and then in 3 months she calls back and says, they said, no way, I can't work in Alabama until I fix this.
And there's nothing that we can do because, as Anna stated, once there's a revoke on your license, there's no way to remove that.
I get that. That's how it is, you know.
But there's nothing in her way right now, though, in terms of being re-examined and getting issued a new license now.
A fee
And
and
the fee's the only thing.
retest and reapply.
So the fee, the retest, and reapply. And
Correct.
since her license was revoked in Tennessee, she does not have to come see us. She could just take the test and pay the fees.
I do believe that is the case. We will double check, but I do believe that is the case.
So I'd be inclined to wait until she asks for us to reduce the fee than reducing it ahead of time. If she wants to retake the test.
Well,
and
she
do
is
that.
seeking waiver of penalties due to lapse of E&O.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
Make a motion.
And E&O is pretty black and white. There's not a lot of contrast or nuance to E&O. You either have it or you do not. And if you have an active license in the system, you are required here in the state of Tennessee to have E&O insurance.
Mr. Gwynn, you had a motion?
Unless your license is retired, which her license was not.
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
I have a motion to deny the request. Is there a second? I have a motion by Commissioner Gwynn to deny this request, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. So
Commissioner Gahn.
if she doesn't really try to get a Tennessee license, she'll never pay the fine anyway.
I mean, I can't speak for her, but that's what logic would lead me to believe.
How long has this fee been outstanding on her record?
2020.
So for almost 4 years now?
Yes. January 31st, 2020. Yes.
Have it.
Get a college education.
Any further discussion on the motion to deny? Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
That motion carries by a 6-1 vote.
Thank you. Next, we have Paula Lana Dulaney. She's seeking waiver of penalties due to medical care. Her statement can be found on your iPad. Her license expired March 28th, 2023.
Do we know what the medical care is?
excuse me, in the statement from that was submitted, it just says that has been a patient since January 2023. It doesn't specify the level of care that she received in Florida.
HIPAA protections apply. The doctor can't necessarily, without her permission, tell us what happened or what kind of care she was seeking.
A waiver request person can submit whatever they so choose.
Yes, they can.
I mean, we've literally received x-rays before, so.
Yeah.
So this 900 is 100 a month again for 9 months. Is that how we got the 900?
Yes, from the time.
So from April of 23 to now?
Correct. Probably till January. We wouldn't add February necessarily because it's being presented to the board in February.
We don't have an inactive status situation, correct?
You have a retired status.
But not, it's not something, is it something you can go in and out of?
An active status?
Yes. No retired status.
Yeah, you can go in and out
In
of
and
retired status. What we ask is that those licenses that expire in retired status are then you pay the renewal to renew your retired license. No, education's not required. However, when you want to pull out of retirement status, then you have to go back and get CE. The 16 hours or whatever is required for CE.
So does the retired status have any kind of parameters that you've got to be practicing for so many years? You've got to be over a certain age or any of that kind of thing?
No, nothing. I could be 18 years old, put my license in retirement status, and pull it out at 21, 25, as long as every 2 years I pay my renewal fee. And when I pull it out of retirement, I'm just required to submit my 16 hours of CE.
Just a question relating to this. If you're in the grandfather status, how does that work when you come back in?
You do not have to take CE if you're grandfathered in. Great question. That's the one caveat.
Yeah, but you need to continue to renew your license during that time period or you will lose your grandfathered status.
So is there a motion for this request? On commissioners.
I'll make a motion to deny this request with insufficient evidence.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bagley to deny this request, seconded by Commissioner Gwynn. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion passes on a 6-1 vote. Commissioner Ferris voting no. Ms. Baker, Ms. McGrath.
Thank you. Ms. McGrath seeks waiver of penalties and testing due to medical care. Her license expired December 12th, 2022. She would be a retested, reapply applicant.
All right, so on this cover page, it has her broker license is expired and her firm license. Is that a firm license or her firm license?
That may be a typo. I don't think she was the principal broker of the firm that she was. Let me double check. I don't think she was the principal broker of the firm that she was last with.
Just for clarification, when an agent receives this notification, the broker receives it also.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And it's mailed out 90 days ahead of time.
Correct.
And then isn't there a follow-up from that, or
No.
is there not? Just the 90
The onus
days?
is on the licensee and the principal broker.
Okay.
It should be noted that this person is grandfathered in. So to speak to an earlier question.
But notices went to both the agent and the broker. I know the answer, but I just wanted for clarification.
Will you repeat the question, please?
The notice did go to the broker and the agent. I know the answer, but I just wanted for clarification.
I believe so. I would have to verify that in the system, but yes, typically they go to both the licensee as well as the broker. And we did find out that she is the principal broker of the firm in question. I believe it's called Acumen Realty. And the letter was sent out January 15th, 2023.
So she would have gotten it as the principal broker and as the agent.
Yes.
So she would have
I see
gotten
where
two.
we mailed the letter on January 15th, 2023.
Two letters.
Let's see if it was two letters. We mailed her a letter on January 15th for lapse in errors and omissions insurance. And it appears that's the only letter that was mailed out.
But it only went to her. It didn't go to her.
It went to what I believe is her business address.
So for E&O, it's required to go to your home address and your business address and your principal broker. But since she's the principal broker, she wouldn't receive that letter. She would receive two letters, one to the business address and one to her home address.
In January of 23.
So she did provide medical records for her to support her application. And, I'm not going to argue with what the doctors are doing, but I did notice that the doctors did clear her to go back to work within a few days in one instance and the next day in another instance. And I'm just wondering, given the online, the ability to manage your license online and to acquire your education online, I just don't see where she was not able at some point between her license between 2022 and now to maintain her license. I just don't see a lack of opportunity to do that.
From this, does it look like the firm?
The firm is
was
active.
With
Wait, hold on. Let me double check on that. Oh, the firm is expired as well.
in 22, 12, 22?
Let me. It expired February 4th, 2023.
So, guessing from her application, she's looking to come back into the profession and obviously wants to restore her license.
Correct.
But she doesn't want to retest because then she's not grandfathered in anymore, probably.
Also, yes.
Which I understand. Commissioners, is there a motion?
Notice about her firm license renewal went out on November 7th, 2022.
I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we deny this request.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith to deny this request, seconded by Commissioner Gwynn. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I was trying to think about when the grandfather status is, 97. Okay, never mind.
Any other discussions? Since you're ready to vote, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny this request?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion passes on a 6 yes, 1 no vote. Commissioner Ferris voting no.
Lastly, for waiver requests, and I do appreciate your patience today, is Ann McGuinn. She seeks a refund of the late penalties due to medical care. Her license expired February 14th, 2023. She renewed and paid the renewal and reinstatement fees on January 31st, 2024. Her statement can be found on your iPads.
I move to approve this request.
Is there a second? I have a motion by Commissioner Ferris to approve, seconded by Commissioner Gahn. Any further discussion of this application? Anna, since you're ready to vote, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. I want to break. You want to push through the education and executive reports. All right. Now, we'll move on to our education director, Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Everybody's doing well today. I think we've got a breath of springtime coming, so that's good. Loxatawny Field didn't see a shadow, so I believe the springtime is coming sometime. I call your attention today to the Tennessee Real Estate Commission education agenda, and I would like to report that I've reviewed all providers, instructors, and their courses marked F1 through F51 and would present them for your approval this morning.
Are there any courses that commissioners want to pull and further discuss? Hearing none.
I just have a question for information.
Go ahead.
So what's the process if I want to start teaching classes? Do I have to belong to something, or and I have to present what I'm going to teach? What is that process? So I clearly understand that.
Three things, Commissioner, that with our Tennessee Real Estate Commission education program, the provider, there has to be a provider. They have to be approved at these monthly meetings. Then they become eligible to present courses. It's their responsibility to then have an instructor who's also licensed, although autonomously they have to be licensed as well. They can work for that provider or any providers that are licensed. And thirdly, the course that you reviewed here today, that also has to be approved. So that provider has courses and an instructor to be able to put those courses on. The one prohibition is they can't give it at a brokerage. It's got to be independent of that. But
it's a good question, and I just want to make mention that I'm afraid I cannot be unbiased with regards to F51. So I don't know if I need to pull that one out and not vote for it or what. I have a strong bias that those are great instructors, so I don't want to influence the commission's vote. F51.
Oh, noted.
I just don't know what you mean.
Have you read your packet?
So to follow up on Commissioner Khan's question, so if his association, you went to teach at your association, that would be your provider, correct?
that's correct, and that wouldn't be considered a brokerage.
Would not.
Right. The associations are independent
Separately.
of that. Right.
So if he wanted to teach in his association at that level, then could he teach a class that's already approved, so we would only be approving him as an instructor? Is that correct? Or does he need to have his own material approved and then teach?
Works this way, Commissioner. First of all, there's a provider, and,
Right.
and then the course has been approved for that provider, and then the instructor for that course can be the same person
Right.
who actually is the provider, but it all has to be within the system and licensed as such.
Okay. So I'm slow today. I've been in a conference, haven't I, Mike? So if Mike wanted to teach at his association and I was already approved as an instructor and a course, could he teach the course that I was approved for and then only be approved as an instructor?
Well, if the course was
Right.
and the
course
provider
and the
they
provider
have that
approved.
course, then yes, he could serve as an instructor because he can work for any provider
Right.
in the state as long as they're licensed.
Okay.
And if he's approved.
And he's
That's
approved.
correct. Yeah, the instructor has to be, and they're independently, they're autonomously licensed.
But
so they could work for more than one provider if they wished, subject to contractual agreements with the provider.
Okay. So I could share the literature that I have written for a course with Mike, correct? If I have written a course and then Mike wants to teach the course using my literature, then he can be approved only as the instructor of that course, correct? Does that make sense?
My only question is,
Yeah, the provider.
I just
would
see
make the
so many
decision.
courses being offered now by so many different people, and I just was curious as what that process was. I mean, it seems like every day in my email I have, come get this credit, come get this credit. And it seems overwhelming that many people I call good instructors.
The analysis is find out who the provider is. They have an instructor that's teaching that course, whether the provider presented, worked up the course or the instructor did. But you've got the provider, the course, and the instructor, and they're all together. Yeah.
While we're talking about instructors, this may not be appropriate time to say, but we lost a great instructor, a great contributor to the real estate industry last week in our area. It was Dr. Karen Randolph, and she'd done a great job. So just wanted to mention her. She deserves a little bit of recognition. She's been a great asset to the real estate community.
I make a motion that we accept the education report.
Motion by Commissioner Smith to approve these courses, seconded by Commissioner Tucker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Mr. White, you got one instructor for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, one instructor for your review and approval this morning.
Or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gwynn, seconded by Commissioner Ferris to approve this instructor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Ms. Baker, Executive Director.
Let me make one comment about that instructor. I noticed that he has basic sign language. I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
That was a first for me too, Commissioner. I haven't seen that one. He's proficient in several languages.
2 points. Can you repeat who made the second? Second point, I would like to clarify for the record that the instructors for course F31
I'm sorry, F31?
F51 are listed as Denise Baker, Anna Matlock, and E. Ross White. They're us. So I just want to be clear that Commissioner Ferris was making a joke. He is not actually conflicted or biased against the instructors for the vote. In case, just want to clarify.
I was about to do the same thing. This course will allow us to do some outreach here in the state of Tennessee, go into local associations and doing panel discussions, one-on-ones with different local associations within the state. I was definitely going to make that clarification as well.
Give them
Thank
an
you.
hour of CE while you're at it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Excited about you doing that.
Agreed.
We're in the process. Our first one will be in Jackson in May. So
Great.
I'll speak to that momentarily. May I do the executive director's report?
It's your turn.
Thank you. You have before you on your iPads the executive director's report. I know Commissioner Gwynn requested additional metrics as far as licensing is concerned. We are working with IT in order to pull accurate numbers for that. So you'll see that during the April commission meeting. The next TREC meeting will be held in Nashville on April 10th, 2024. The main meeting location in West Tennessee will be at Jackson City Hall. So that's the City of Jackson City Hall. The day before the commission meeting, we will be doing and holding a TREC panel discussion with myself, Ross, and Anna. And we will be making mention of that in the winter 2024 newsletter that will be emailed out next week to all licensees within the state. Another update for you. Well, prior to moving on to the next update, are there any questions in reference to what's on your report or the few things that I just talked about as far as our next meetings are concerned?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit more information about your panel on the day before the meeting in May?
We are still coming up with talking points for that, but it will be the three of us presenting to Jackson and answering any questions.
Jackson University or Jackson Schools, or
this is for the West Central Central West Realtor Association, and the panel discussion is open up to any licensee. You don't necessarily have to be a member of an association or a member of that association to join us and receive CE credit.
All right, good.
The panel discussion, May 8th. The meeting's on May 9th.
So that means I could come and listen and get CE credit?
Of course.
Thank you.
You just got to pull the right.
Yes. TREC will be releasing an RFP for an educational provider within the next 30 days. If anyone were to reach out to you in reference to that RFP process, please forward me their information and I'll have our legal team reach back out to them. But that will happen within the next 30 days because that contract is expiring. TREC's Tennessee High School Licensing Program contract has been amended so that students in all 95 counties now qualify for the program. Just a short recap for those who are unaware of that program. The goal is to introduce and encourage high school seniors, especially those not attending a trade school or a university, to explore career opportunities in real estate in Tennessee and obtain a Tennessee affiliate broker license. This initiative is to offer specialized education and training to all graduating seniors that are interested at high schools across the state of Tennessee, with a dedicated focus on economically distressed and at-risk counties as identified by the state. This program will allow high school seniors to take the required course for free in hopes that they begin a career in real estate. TREC has allocated $222,500 for this initiative. The 60-hour core course and the 30-hour core course will be paid for by TREC. There is also an optional exam preparation course that students can take if they so choose. If each participant took all three courses, including the course that is not required, which is the exam preparation course, that will allow for 193 students to complete the program across the state of Tennessee. There may be variables that will allow for more high school students to take the professional education to obtain a real estate license, such as a student not completing the training or students not needing to take the exam preparation course. Are there any questions? TREC hopes to implement the marketing plan for this program in April 2024 and have students enrolled by May or June of this year. Once students are enrolled, they have 6 to 12 months, even after graduating high school, to complete the program. Are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
And the instructors would be?
We have contracted with Kaplan to provide the 60-hour course as well as the 30-hour course for this training. Are there any other questions? In the interest of time, I know Commissioner Gwynn requested a real estate education and recovery account. Would you like me to give that update now or wait until April?
Let's have it.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Gwynn, during the last meeting, requested an update and just a brief overview on the real estate education and recovery account. I'm sorry that budget is not in your packet today, but as of January 25th, we have $787,716 in that account. The established account within the general fund of real estate education and recovery account, all funds received by the commission under this section shall be deposited into the account and held solely for the purpose of this section. The commission shall maintain a minimum balance of $500,000, and we have far exceeded that. To receive money from that account, someone would have to have a court order to recover funds from this account. not including interest and costs resulting from any violation as far as TREC's rules and statutes are concerned, and it cannot exceed $15,000 per transaction, regardless of the numbers of person aggrieved or the number of parcels involved in a transaction. And so that is an overview of the real estate education and recovery account. Did you have any questions, Commissioner Gwen?
People have ever requested the 15,000?
I can't speak to that. However, last year there was one person.
One.
And we are still working through Tennessee's Finance and Administration Department to give the folks those funds.
You think the 15,000 is a fair number?
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
But as far as
if
our
you took,
rules and statutes are concerned,
I don't know what 787,000 divided by 15,000 is, but it's a lot of years if we do one a year. I mean,
It's really 287,000 divided by 15.
We got to,
that's a great way of looking at it as well.
because we got to keep the 500 in there.
Correct.
So, as you know,
No, but that's our track record.
So as you know, the real estate education and recovery account is an issue that we recently, back in 2019, when the commission amended these, we reduced the amount of funds that were going into that account to try and reduce the balance of the account. From each initial licensee was originally required to pay $10 into account. Now it is $1. The account, the way it is set up statutorily, is a little different. So the $15,000 amount is statutorily set. It is the court. We have tweaked the statute in the past to make it easier for individuals to make claims, but it's still a pretty high threshold for a person to make a claim. It is possible in the future that more statutory changes might come to the real estate education recovery account to make the funds accessible to individuals, which has to do with the pending payment related to the individual that made the claim last year and why that amount has not been dispersed yet. I guess one of the things I don't think there'll be, I'll just ask for forgiveness. So one of the issues is that statutorily it states that the amount that's being provided is supposed to be considered compensatory damages. And the way that the tax code is set up are that damages are to be taxed at a certain amount. And so if an individual is to make a claim for the account, I believe the amount that right now that they're supposed to receive is supposed to be taxed like 30%, 30 or 40%. So, but we can't waive that because that is how it's written in statute, and tax code is something that's completely separate. And so, not mess with IRS. Anywho, that is one issue related to that. Also, there is a subrogation clause in the account. And for those of you that are not necessarily familiar with that, subrogation clause states that the individuals are to essentially pay that money back to the account. So it's really going to be hard to reduce the account money when you pay it out and then you get it back. So we're constantly going to be getting it back that way too. So those are a couple of things that are related to the real estate education recovery account, why it is so high, the amount, but that is something that we definitely keep in mind, as it was a question, not this sunset hearing, but the previous sunset hearing by the General Assembly.
Does the subrogation cause you to have to do work? In other words, you're stepping in the shoes of the person that's being harmed, correct? In other words, you're trying to recover money. The fund is trying to recover the $15,000 from where?
So the individual that the amount is assessed against is required to pay the fund.
Right.
So it's never, to my knowledge, been, I don't in practice, but it is written in statute that we do have a subrogation clause.
Baker, anything else for us?
Excuse me. Are there any other questions in reference to the executive director's report? That concludes my report.
I'll just ask you, is there anybody waiting in the wings for public comment?
No, sir.
So we'll go ahead and dispose of that on our agenda as well.
Very good. Thank you.
So
The public comment period is now closed.
Thank you. Since commissioners are ready for a break, so let's go ahead and recess for 20 minutes and come back at 10:30.
Thank you.
You think so? Consent report. Do you want to dispose of the bullet points? We got one for mediation and one for bond request before moving.
We would prefer to do the legal report first
Okay,
and then do those two items after.
very good. All right, so commissioners have requested the following cases be pulled. Cases 1, 6, 8, 10, 11, 28, 29, 33, and 35. Are there other cases commissioners would like to pull? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Speak into your mic, please.
I moved to. Oh my gosh, I just went blank. Maybe I need a Coke. Everybody else had a Coke. Anybody got a motion so we can keep moving? I went to sleep for about 10 minutes up here.
I make a motion that we accept council's recommendation on all items except those that were read into the report.
Second.
All right, I got a motion to approve council's recommendation from Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Ferris. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. That motion passes unanimously. Case 1, that was me. And the only question I have is the letter of warning. What was the subject of that letter of warning? Not on my list, anyway. Y'all didn't have to look in
They couldn't find proof that it was ever submitted. Is that right?
Correct. They've that would have been so.
The recommendation is a revocation of
Yes,
their
ma'am.
license,
Mhm.
correct?
I just want the letter of warning to be stated on this record, so that way we have a full record.
I make a motion.
I don't know what the letter of warning was passed.
Yeah, I don't know about the letter of warning.
In 2022, there was a history of a letter of warning sent.
I just want to know the topic of it.
That's a good question.
I mean, it's immaterial. We're going to revoke the license anyway, but I want it on the record.
You're looking for that, Kim.
The previous letter of warning, while I've got it in front of me, I'm sorry, is letter of warning regarding reasonable care duty owed to all parties. Yes, sir.
The last sentence in the paragraph reads, the respondent did not report these convictions to the commission, but was not required to pursuant to Tennessee Code. You give the number 62-13-3.
Yes, sir. And that applies specifically to the felony drug conviction, not the enumerated offenses in the code regarding money offenses or larceny or again, any of those that would be enumerated in the Broker Act. They are currently on felony probation.
Do we have that information, or do we just have, I mean, from the paragraph I'm reading, like, they didn't do anything, but then you're saying there's more information.
Yes, sir. So the respondent's own statement, when they did respond to my request for more information, they confirmed that there was at least one offense that they have been convicted of that they should have reported. I looked and again confirmed that they did not report that conviction that was out of, I think, 2016. There are more recent convictions that they also did not report, that they are not one of the enumerated offenses under 312B. And so the drug offenses, they're not in trouble for, so to speak, but there are at least two other offenses. One I know is a conviction, the other that I think in yet another state they may have had a conviction that would qualify under that statute that they should have reported, would be mandated to report and have not.
Yes, my question is, that information has come since this was sent to us. I mean, we didn't have any of that information. Like, it didn't say in here that you had any am I lost here?
Prior to the complaint that we had any of this information?
Yeah, you've got, after this complaint, you've gotten the new information.
Correct. I've since confirmed that information. Yes, sir.
So if they had applied when they got their license in 2008, there was no problem. Since then, in 2016, they've been convicted of money laundering in another state.
For a related offense, as I said, I was trying to get them to give me specific information as they are required to do, and they have ignored my repeated attempts to do so.
Okay.
Because that conviction is out of state, I was not able before the meeting to get the certified copy, but I am working on that. And again, as I was trying to get that information, I found yet in another state that there may be also a qualifying conviction.
You're doing well, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we accept council's recommendation.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Smith to accept council's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Gahn. Any further discussion?
So, that's to revoke a license is a big thing. So I'm not questioning that we need to do it, but should we wait till we get these certified pieces to make sure that it's I's dotted, T's crossed, or you feel confident you're getting that?
I feel confident moving forward based on the information that I do have. If by chance I find out I'm completely wrong, which has happened before, I'll represent at that time for a different outcome.
Thanks. So, and is the revocation statutory and an automatic, or is this an offer to revoke?
Well, at this point, it's an offer to revoke. I will look into whether or not it would be a mandatory revocation.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to accept council's recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously.
I've got a question moving forward. All felonies do not have to be reported. Is that what because I thought it was all felonies.
As a licensee, if you're applying for an initial license, everything has to be reported.
Once you have your license, then when you renew, if you've had a prescribed felony, you have to, so give me an example of a prescribed felony that does not have to be reported. Bank robbery would not be one.
Well, bank robbery, because it does involve money or a similar offense is how the statute puts it. But as in this case, a felony drug charge
does not have to be reported.
Not according to how we have interpreted it. No, sir.
So you could be a part of a cartel and be running drugs in a multi-million-dollar operation and give a felony and not have to report that if you have your real estate license. Is that?
Know what you're convicted of. If you're convicted of conspiracy to run drugs, then that would be trafficking and a similar offense. So yes, it would. But
Okay.
that is different from what I have been able to confirm with Tennessee Department of Corrections in this particular instance.
Okay.
And no commissioners reveal their familiarity with the illegal drug market, please.
That would be on the record. So.
All right, moving on to case number 6. Joan, you and I pulled that one, so you go first.
Looking back at my notes, let me double check. Was there a repair proposal? Did you see a repair proposal on this one? And who does it say is supposed to do the repairs?
So there is not a repair proposal as part of the documents that were submitted by the complainant. That is one of the things that I asked for additional information and was not get a response. So based on the limited what I have, I don't have enough at this point. If the complainant wants to submit additional information or the documentation I've asked for, then we can reopen it at that time. But right now, there's
not enough.
No, ma'am.
And the other thing that I didn't quite understand, respondent stated that the complainant's agent sent a mutual release 5 days after the contract expired and knew that it was too late to request the release. I didn't quite understand that sentence.
I didn't either. That was the respondent's response. And so again, that's why I asked for, I'm going to need some more information here as to what's going on. And I'm still left asking questions. So it's difficult when a complainant who I'm sure at the outset is very upset and has a very legitimate reason to come to the commission doesn't then follow up. That doesn't leave me much room to do anything. Yes, ma'am.
We're just lacking information to move forward. Okay, thank you.
So dismisses, the recommendation to dismiss closes this complaint. And if the complainant wants to file yet another complaint on this issue, they can. Or is it gone?
That's my understanding, is that we can, if we close and flag, we can reopen, or can we, I would suggest then instead that we close and flag, and so that we can reopen this complaint instead of starting a new complaint.
Yeah, let me ask. All right, so the only other question I had was, can you tell from the record, is the earnest money been released or interpled within the 21 days? No, insufficient. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioners.
Make a motion that we close and flag number 6.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith to close and flag case number 6, seconded by Commissioner Bagley. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion passes unanimously. Case number 8. Kathy.
I just have a couple of questions. It says that the respondents posed as a licensed contractor and agent. Were they licensed?
As a contractor? No, ma'am.
No, okay. And then it says respondent billed complainant $10,000. Was that money paid to him, or was it just billed?
My understanding, they paid him, and then they never came back. And they are following up with law enforcement, so it's not just this complaint that was made.
Okay, so is that, I mean, if in fact he did that, and they obviously did, I know they didn't respond, so we're going to give $1,000 civil penalty. Is there anything else we should be doing if in fact he stole $10,000?
That would be outside the jurisdiction of the commission, but I can certainly follow up with the complainant and law enforcement to see if they need any additional information from us that would help them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I make a motion to accept council's recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Tucker to accept council's recommendation on case number 8, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Case number 10, Joan.
This was, the question I had on this one was the Tennessee Realtor forms used on this contract. And my question is, because it says there was a need for a termite inspection, but no promises were made. And in our contract, I believe it says that termites, if they're found, then the seller should treat the property. And I'm just wondering if there was further discussion somewhere on that. Am I the only one that pulled this one?
I had a question about it, Joan, about there was just a clarification, because in the remarks about the complainant, it says that the complainant alleges respondent offered to set up termite treatment. And then down in the respondent's response, it says, finally, there were exchanges about the need for a termite inspection, but no promises by respondent of taking care of it for the complainant. So I just want to make sure, did the respondent say, hey, I will do a termite treatment? Or did they say, okay.
The Commissioner, yes, this was kind of a convoluted situation because we have out-of-state buyers that there was a lot of email and text, but it wasn't until after the home, I think it was the day of closing, that they ever actually saw the home. The text messages, it was odd to me that they did not want a termite inspection, because that is in the end what happened. The buyer said, we don't need one. It's not a requirement of our financing, which I thought, I've bought a couple houses and never had that before, but indeed their financing did not require that termite inspection sheet. And so the respondent said, I suggested to them strongly that they should go ahead and do that anyway, but it did not happen. And the complainants are saying, the respondent said that they would take care of it. The respondent has the text message that says, I recommend it, and they said, and the complainant said, we'll take care of it later.
Okay, then, Commissioners.
Did you see a final walkthrough form where they waived their final walkthrough or no?
The complainant said that a final walkthrough was not done because the respondent, their agent, did not make themselves available for the final walkthrough. And again, I have a text message where that's not exactly what happened. The respondent said, I can't do it on this day, but I can do it on this other day, and let me know if that would work for you. The complainants then get back, because there was a lot going on with the complainants and moving cross country and everything, so I understand things get jumbled, but the complainants came back a couple, don't need one.
They should sign off on that, saying that
They did sign off on.
That they waived their
Yes.
final inspection.
Yes, sir.
You can go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
I make a motion to accept council's decision.
Number 10.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion to accept council's recommendation on case number 10 by Commissioner Bagley, seconded by Commissioner Gwen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Case number 11. Joan, that's you again.
Yes. I understand the failure to respond penalty of $1,000. I get that. I just want to be clear that as active agents, as active practicing real estate people, that when we publish a listing and we put a house in there, sometimes we have no control over how many other people see that or where that information goes. So I'm not sure that they had a legitimate complaint on my house is always end up being shown up, but I think you were wise to give a penalty for no response.
I think if I'm a homeowner and my house is appearing on a listing of somebody else's house, I have a problem with that. But it's not. It's not a trend thing. It's not a trend thing.
But look at Joe. Let's take Joe for example. He builds new construction, so he may use the same plan 2 or 3 times. So the front of the house could be the same. So if I fuss and say, "Wait a minute, you're showing a picture of my house, but it really wasn't my house. It was a representative photo of my house." So I think that was a complaint that really didn't have enough substance to it.
John?
Yes, I make a motion that we accept council's recommendation on number 11.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Tucker, that we accept council's recommendation for case number 11. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Case number 8, Commissioner Tucker. Number 28, Commissioner Tucker.
Yeah, I have a question here. This is an advertising complaint, and it appears as though there was a history prior about another advertising complaint. This respondent just did not respond. And
Correct.
in other instances, we have given $1,000 civil penalty. Why the $500 penalty here?
That we gave $500 once for failure to respond, but I can amend it 1,000.
I handle a lot of the advertising complaints, and if it is a first offense, we will issue a $500 civil penalty.
But there was a history on this one. There was a prior offense.
So if there was a prior offense, it would be if it were to have come before me, it would have been $1,000. But this particular situation escalated, which is why it's with legal.
I'd like to make a motion to make an $1,000 civil penalty.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Tucker to change council's recommendation from a $500 civil penalty to a $1,000 civil penalty. Is there a second?
Second.
That is seconded by Commissioner Gwynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Case number 29. Joan, that's you again.
That is me. And my question was, it's on the second paragraph next to the last line. The respondent explained that their Tennessee license was downgraded to an affiliate because they did not maintain a zero balance in the escrow account. Can you explain that? Because I don't want a zero balance in my escrow. I want to keep selling and getting more money in there and paying it out.
That's just what they said in their response, so that's
Yeah.
just why I included it in there. I don't believe that's exactly correct, but I think they got reduced. Just it was related to an escrow account violation. I don't think they understood why they were downgraded, but that's just what they wrote. So I just put it in the response as.
Can we send a letter letting them know that because that is not a violation, correct? Having a zero balance in your escrow account is not a violation.
It is a violation if there's money supposed to be in your escrow account and it is not there. So
I agree.
I think we shouldn't say that per se.
Okay.
The individual misspoke. They did not have an escrow account. That's why their license was downgraded.
So they were a broker and did not have an escrow account.
Correct.
Okay.
No, and they did not have a waiver for to have an escrow account either.
Oh, I guess.
If you were to open up a firm and you do not want to handle escrow, you have to fill out a waiver that says We are a firm that will not hold escrow.
That paperwork.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Yes, so the individual in this case did not have an escrow account, and they also did not have a waiver to not have an escrow account. So they clearly, I think they misspoke in their response.
That's not the complaint.
Right, that's not the complaint here at issue. That was just the question you had in their response.
Right.
Mhm.
So we've already addressed that issue by downgrading their license.
Correct. They're an affiliate.
Okay. Okay.
I got a question. When you get an anonymous complaint, do you ask why they want to remain anonymous, or you just take it and move on down the road?
Can't contact.
In your words, we take it and move on down the road.
Take it and move it on down. Okay.
I move that we accept council's recommendation on number 29.
Commissioner Smith makes a motion to accept council's recommendation. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Bagley. Any further discussion? Go ahead and let's vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Case number 33. So this is similar to what Kathy said. The recommendation was for a $500 civil penalty. I think we like to be consistent, maybe bump that up to $1,000, but I'll go ahead and let commissioners make a motion accordingly.
And just to clarify, it was two separate violations: one for failure to respond, and then one for failure to supervise properly.
For you doing, is your recommendation 1,000 for the 500, and then leave the 250 the same?
Yeah, I'm not quibbling with the fee, the civil penalty for the second charge. I would want to bump up the civil penalty for failure to respond.
What is our typical fee for failure to respond?
$1,000.
Awesome.
So
the total would be 1,500.
1250.
okay, back me up just a second. So the penalty is $250 for failure to respond, but we usually do $1,000 for failure to respond. Did I?
Yes, the reason I said $250 for that one is because I had already assessed a $500 for failure to properly supervise.
Okay.
And I felt like maybe putting an additional $500 was excessive, but since we normally do $1,000 for failure to respond, then maybe $1,500.
You're right. It would be
$1,000 for the failure to respond, and then I recommended $500 for failure to supervise.
Have a motion?
Oh, I don't have a motion. No.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we change the civil penalty to $1,000 for failure to respond.
What about the failure to supervise?
And leave the 500 for failure to supervise and civil penalty and failure to supervise.
So 1,750.
1,500.
1,500.
So just to restate the motion, Commissioner Smith makes a motion that the civil penalty for failure to supervise be $500, and that the civil penalty for failure to respond be $1,000, for a total civil penalty of $1,500. And that was seconded by Commissioner Bagley. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. What type of ad was this?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I can look up the old one. It was an administratively open case from something we dealt with in December. If I remember correctly, it probably was something on social media, but I can confirm. Give me a minute. It was a sign violation. It was like yard signs were missing crucial information.
Okay. My only question on that is from social media aspects, the task of a broker to monitor everything that an agent posts is almost impossible. What we can do as a broker, we can have policies that our agents are to abide by. So if a broker is penalized, if they have a policy that states you're supposed to have these things in your social media ads, would that alleviate the broker from being fined?
Just to clarify, I was mistaken before. It was not social media. It was just a yard sign. It was.
I understood. I was just asking a
Oh,
question
so
while we're on that topic.
My understanding, broker is always responsible for the advertising of the brokerage firm. I don't know if a policy alleviates it. And I understand you talking about the burden of supervising, but I think our hands are tied a little bit by the statute of the rules.
The rules,
praise from you, Anna.
no,
That's
the
high
rules state specifically that all advertising is at the supervision and responsibility of the principal broker. Yeah, we've had several cases where we've had some rogue affiliate brokers, but unfortunately the rule is very specific that it is still the principal broker.
Do I have a motion? It's been seconded. Let's vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Case number 35. I pulled this one for comedic value because did they really break down and do yo mama jokes? I mean, come on.
Technically, it was only just one. It was just one interaction. They were just very upset, and
just, you know, it was a nice punctuation to the legal and consent agenda. Thank you for that. Chair will entertain a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Smith to accept council's recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Tucker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we have our bullets.
Buckle in.
Mediation.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to talk about for mediation is the addendum. Did I start echoing? Hello? Okay. Is the addendum to the consent agenda, which I printed out for you. It's a one page, it's front and back. I'll give you some context before I talk about that. So as we know, and we've discussed several times, there are 3 areas in which the commission has delegated to an administrative law judge where they sit alone. Those areas are unlicensed activity, errors and omissions insurance complaints, as it relates to principal brokers and affiliate brokers, and cases where it relates to failure to respond to a complaint. So typically what happens in those cases is we will file a notice of hearing and charges before the commission and before the Administrative Procedures Division, and a formal hearing will either take place or the case may be settled by agreed order beforehand. So sometimes when we file that case before the judge, lights a fire on people and they decide, hey, I want to settle it over. The governing, like statutes, like similar to the rules of evidence and rules of civil procedure for the Administrative Procedures Division, is the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. And in that, it allows for a process called mediation, which is very similar to mediation that takes place in a civil process. So it allows the cases, so what happens in a case if it were to be mediated, the case is assigned to one administrative law judge and the 2 parties. So the first administrative law judge would send the case, the parties would agree, hey, let's try mediation before going to a formal hearing. And if the case doesn't settle at mediation, we will have a hearing on this date. So then the case is transferred to a second administrative law judge for mediation. That's separate from the first one, and the parties at that point do a mediation process where they work out trying to resolve all the issues to come to an agreement and a conclusion. So that is a process that is sometimes it is not, it can take time, but it doesn't have to necessarily take a lot of time either. So in the Administrative Procedures Division, many of our judges have been encouraging us to look at the ability to use mediation. Well, the one issue we can't do for this commission is we cannot mediate cases where you sit because you make those decisions. However, it is the opinion that if the administrative law judge is sitting alone, essentially what we're asking today is for the commission, if we were to have the case go to mediation, to be able to essentially delegate the executive director to go to mediation with the parties and approve a settlement between the parties, to allow that settlement to be approved, and then the case can be settled that way via mediation. So in the particular case that I have before you, which is 2022-02-0201, this is a case that was failure to supervise for an affiliate broker case. That was the context is provided before you. It was filed due to a suspension for an affiliate, and then we sent out a consent order for the principal broker. The principal broker was assessed a $1,000 civil penalty. I filed a notice of hearing and charges with the Administrative Procedures Division, and then we went to mediation. We were able to mediate the case in about 35 minutes. So the parties, the agreed upon settlement based on the circumstances, the agreed upon settlement that the parties came to, as dictated by the judge, was to have civil penalty to be issued of $200 and to split the filing fees. So if there's a filing fee when you file a regular case, and then a filing fee for mediation. So it'd be an additional for him, but for the person, an additional $200. The respondent would then also still have the failure to supervise the affiliate broker in the agreed order, be required to pay that amount within 30 days within the entry of the order, and then it would need to be signed by the first administrative law judge. That's an independent person from the second administrative law judge would not sign that order. So wanting to talk to the commission to see if this would be first to get your approval to approve this settlement the agreed upon settlement between the parties, and then two, to ask your opinion on whether we would be your thoughts on going to mediation for two of the three. The two being E&O cases and failure to respond to a complaint. Unlicensed activity cases would still go to a full hearing. Don't think that those cases would be necessarily ripe for mediation in that particular instance. So, thoughts, questions?
Thanks for the breakdown.
Thank you. Yeah.
Probably should have done that first because I'm like spending.
So the question that I have, so it would basically, Denise would go to the mediation, agree to a settlement, and then would that come back to us for approval, or would that be it would just be approved and it would go forward?
So what we're asking for today is to allow the executive director to approve what essentially, if it's me, if it's Kim, if it's Ariel, whatever we decide with the party, whatever the two the attorneys and the party, we would present the agreed upon settlement to Denise, and she would then make a decision, yay or nay, on that decision instead. So, like, this is, again, for E&O cases, the ones that, that we've been doing routinely that follow the same process. And then, failure to respond to complaints, which are already have been presented before the commission on the legal report and given a recommendation.
So I would know what the commissioners, what you all's point of view would be prior to going into mediation, because it was already in the legal report and it was either discussed or you all accepted counsel's recommendation.
Question. So basically what we're talking about is saving time and potentially making a deal with somebody where we've already said the penalty is $1,000 and they come back and say, we want to mediate, obviously trying to pay less than $1,000, correct? So, so where do you go? I mean, do you say, okay, we'll split it every time? Or if otherwise, we just say 500.
Not necessarily. So the first thing is, in order to go to mediation, both parties have to agree to mediation. So that means that we would have to agree to go to mediation. Depending on what's the decision. If I think that this is a case that should go straight to hearing, we're going to go to hearing. If we think that we can work it out with the respondent, then we would go to mediation in that case. If it's going to be like a default hearing where the individual doesn't respond, would not go to mediation. So there are like two steps. We have to agree, both of the parties have to agree to go to mediation. So we have to say yes, the other party has to say yes. If one of the parties says no, we go to a formal hearing. So it's not that it's always going to be split in half every single time. It really depends on what the parties agree upon at the decision. So it's very fact intensive depending on what it is. But that's also the same as what, if we were to go to hearing. So a judge, when it's sent to an administrative law judge, they have the authority to either give $0, $1,000, anything in between, suspension, revocation. Everything is on the table at that point per the rules. So the whole gamut is there available at that time. So when you go essentially to the court,
the administrative law judge is not mediating, though.
The administrative law judge is essentially the go-between. They're the person that goes from one party to the other. So I'm in one room, Kim's in another room, and they would ask me, hey, what's your floor? What's your ceiling? What are your thoughts on this? And then they would say, I went back to the other party. This is what they said. And then we would try to come to an agreement together. And if we're unable to come to an agreement, it goes to hearing.
So kind of walk through the steps then. So if we have $1,000 penalty and we assess it and the person says, I disagree with that, okay, right. It goes to an administrative law judge, correct? And that costs money.
Right. So it was
who pays the fee on that in that situation?
So it's going to cost money regardless, because we're already in the arena of the Administrative Procedures Division, right? And so one of the things, when you file a notice of hearing and charges, you have a request for relief. And so in my request for relief, I always include the recommendation from the commission, which is going to be, in this case, $1,000. But you can also request additional relief from the judge. And so it depends on every case. So in E&O cases, we can request a civil penalty up to $1,000. We can also request suspension, revocation, downgrade of a license. Everything is on the table at that point. And the administrative law judge at that point has the discretion to make a decision what they decide. Like, they would hear the case normal, and decide what they think is is appropriate. So that's generally how it is and how it goes. There's a filing, who pays the filing fee in that case? It depends on what the judge states. So the judge can assess the filing fee costs to the respondent, or they can say that the parties have to split it. It's dependent on the outcome.
Well, we get a report afterwards to let us know how it went. Like, hey, you guys ruled on this case, and
So
this is
it'll
how
show
it went.
the outcome shows up on the disciplinary action report, just like it would our other other formal hearings that are set by ALJ alone. So it show up, this individual has been assessed civil penalty of X amount plus court costs in hearing.
Document on
X, Y,
like,
and Z.
would we get something similar to this, talking about a previous case, how we ruled, $1,000 civil penalty, new information.
It
Denise
wouldn't
went to
show up on like
mediation.
the legal report. No.
We wouldn't get anything. We would have to go online and.
I mean, it could be added, but like right now, as it happens, even like the cases that we don't send to mediation, the cases that are normally heard by an ALJ alone, we don't report those back to you.
It only goes to an ALJ if the person doesn't pay the fee, right?
Don't accept the count.
If they contest, yes. In other words, $1,000 penalty, before I mail my check, it's done, right?
Right.
If they say, I'm not going to mail a check, then that goes to the ALJ.
Yes.
So
For only two types of cases. For 3 types of cases.
Failure to respond. What was the other one?
Oh, nice. Well, those are ALJ. That we send to them, that's a consent order, then we would go to hearing.
So start to finish, complaint comes in, they don't respond. We issue a civil penalty or consent order for $1,000 for failing to respond. They say no, then it goes to an ALJ. You agree to mediate, both parties agree to mediate, goes to another ALJ judge to mediate. That settlement would then go to the first ALJ for approval.
Right.
And then once that's approved, it could then be reported back to us in some fashion that was done.
Yeah, if that was done.
And Denise would be our stand-in for that mediation.
Right. Denise would be the stand-in
So,
for the
I mean,
mediation.
that shouldn't be hard to add to your executive report month to month if you have an instance like that.
Would most likely be added to the legal report, but no, it wouldn't be difficult to add it to one of our reports.
Would there be a lot of these? Like, what are we talking about?
I mean, it depends on if we agree to go to if we agree to go to mediation. It's just we're asking essentially if we can add another tool to our toolbox to have in this particular case. Like for this one, we thought it would be it was a lot faster. For example, we were I filed the case in November. I wasn't able to get a pre-hearing conference until January, but we mediated the case 2 weeks later, and then January 19th. But if we went to hearing, my hearing would not be until March. So it's just like another way that we can hear cases.
But how binding would it be on our behalf? And I mean, could we test it a while and then pull it back, or is it law? And the reason I say this is, I'm personally, and I think most of this commission's very comfortable with you and Denise, but there'll be someone to replace you at some point, and the next commission or whatever may not be as comfortable just handing over the checkbook. So the question is, how binding is it? How hard if we're like, hey, this isn't going how we think, or the next commission says we don't like this the way it's going. That's my question.
Sunset, where it's brought up for reconsideration or something.
It's not up to me. What does everybody else think?
As Anna stated, I really think this is another tool in the toolbox to speed up the process. In addition to that, I think it's going to be the exception and not the norm. So I don't think this is something that will happen often.
I mean, exception right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have that process in place. First time I've heard of mediation for civil penalty for failure to respond. And
And E&O cases.
longest
would like
tenured
to-
member right now.
I just would like to clarify that the cases we're bringing to mediation, you would not hear at all anyway. It would be just an administrative law judge alone.
It tells me that you've gone to mediate. You've gone to mediation before, and it just
No,
hasn't
this
come
is
to
the
us?
first time.
I see. Okay.
So these cases you would not be sitting for the cases. The administrative law judge would be the person hearing the case regardless. It would not be the commission.
So the process right now would be, or is right now, without mediation, they don't agree to the consent order, that's a formal hearing.
Right. We would just go to a formal hearing with an administrative law judge.
So you're asking us for two things. You want us to approve this mediation that you've already completed.
Yes.
And then you want the latitude to go to mediation for those two types of cases you talked about before.
Yes.
2 types.
Yes.
Yes.
E&O.
E&O case and failure to respond.
So when you were going through your proposal, I was thinking yes on the E&O, meaning yeah, but I was having a hard time understanding why we would not say, okay, failure to respond is what it is. How can you arbitrate that? But the more I think about it, I mean, I guess there could be facts and circumstances that we think a person didn't respond, but they may be able to prove later on that they did, or is that wrong?
I mean, for failure to respond, it is really like the case is, did you respond or did you not respond?
Yeah.
Right. How could it be
10 days, right?
How could it be gray? It seemed like it's black and white.
It's within 10 days and it's gray, but like some people do, again, contest to having to pay a civil penalty for $1,000 for that. And there's nothing we can really do about that because that's within their rights, due process rights to contest against it. So, I mean, we still have to go to hearing to prove, I put the proof on. Did we receive a response within 10 days? Yes, no. Then, the judge hears, again, mitigating factors. Maybe they claim that they didn't receive the complaint. They might take that into account and decide to lower the civil penalty amount. Or they might hear, aggravating factors. They just were like, well, I don't feel like I need to respond to any complaints. And so they decide to revoke that person's license, right? So everything is very fact dependent when you get into a case before the judge. But like you said, it's very clear cut case, whether it's a yes or a no. But we can't say that if it goes to a judge, we're always going to win. If it's failure to respond.
Oh, but if we were to grant this mediation, Denise would be the final approval. She would approve the mediation, and we wouldn't see it again after that.
Right. So she would be if I decide to mediate a case and the parties come up with an agreement, and then we would present the agreement to Denise, and Denise would be like, no, I don't like that. So we would go back again, try again. And then we bring it back to Denise. And then she's like, okay, I think that's fine. And then it would be done that way.
I always had the sense that the heavy fee for the failure to respond is to emphasize that we want our licensees to respond. In any case, even to just acknowledge that they received the complaint and I don't want to provide any further information. That's their right not to do that, right? They don't have to give us any information, but at least say I've gotten the complaint.
But I think what they're talking about is they have the right to contest it no matter what.
They do.
And we don't hear that anyway. And this just gives them another way to solve that if they decide to mediate rather than go the other way. I don't see where it hurt to give them the ability to do that.
One thing I'm wondering though is if on a failure to respond, if we find someone 1,000 and they go mediate, then the penalty is lessened.
Not necessarily.
Unnecessarily.
I know it not necessarily, but in their mind, they say, "Wait a minute." If the first
Not necessarily, but we also could go to hearing and the judge decides not to assess a penalty at all, which happens.
And you know,
So
if,
I mean, there's like that's discretion, right?
I mean, and you know, Denise might say no, and there's just no agreement in the mediation, in which case it would come back for formal hearing.
Can I give an example of a failure to respond that might go to mediation?
Yes.
Your concern. I had a recent one where the approved penalty was $1,000. This respondent did not respond. Once the consent order came to them, and it was a couple months later, they panicked, called, and said, "What? I didn't. What's going on? I'd never responded to this." Long story short, this respondent had cancer, was out of their office for several months. They got the initial complaint plus my consent order all within the space of about 2 weeks. They went ahead and paid it, but that might have been a case that was ripe for mediation in the sense that, no, you didn't respond, but maybe a $500 penalty instead of a $1,000 penalty. So mediation is going to be for those cases where we may think there's mitigating factors or there's other things that would play into a conversation as opposed to having a contested hearing in front of a judge. And it's not every case that we're going to send to mediation. It's only going to be those that we all agree might be a good case for mediation. Otherwise, we'll just have a hearing like we're doing now.
And that hearing is with the administrative law judge, so it wouldn't come before the commission.
I make a motion that we approve the one that was mediated that is before us today.
Motion by Commissioner Ghana, seconded by Commissioner Ferris to accept and approve the mediation agreement labeled in the supplemental case number 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. So now you need a motion from us to grant that authority to go to mediation?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion
And
on both of them,
So the
both
motion,
the E&O and the
so the
failure to
motion by
respond.
Commissioner Gwynn is to grant authority to our counsel and our executive director to go to mediation for cases involving E&O insurance and failure to respond, and to settle those cases with our authority. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Ferris. Counsel, is that motion sufficient? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. You got something else for us here?
Yes. Okay. So this, bear with me. All right. I'm going to go as fast as I can, but it is a little bit different because this is not something I've seen before. So it's not something you've seen before. But this has to do with timeshares. I would like us to take a journey in our books. We are going to 6632-113. So in the green book, that's around page 135. So it's a different 113.
143 in it.
Starts on 143.
We're in a different we're in a different title. It's property title, and this is the timeshare chapter of 32, which is different than our normal chapter of 13, but you still have the authority. You know, we still govern timeshares, but it's just in a different part. Just wanted to give that context. Okay, so I'm going to read A1. So it states, a developer of a timeshare program shall deposit into an escrow account established and held in the state in an account designated solely for the purpose by an independent bonded escrow company or in an institution whose account are insured, a governmental agency or instrumentality, 100% of all funds which are received during the purchaser's cancellation period provided for in this part. the deposit of such funds shall be evidenced by an executed escrow agreement between the escrow agent and the developer. And then A, B, C, and D provide the requirements of what is required for this escrow agreement. So what we're talking about is going to be E. So E states, in lieu of any escrows required by this section, the Commission shall have the discretion to accept other financial assurances, including but not limited to a performance bond or an irrevocable letter of credit in an amount at least equal to or in excess of the cost to complete the timeshare project. So that is what we're talking about here. So we received an inquiry from a timeshare company from their counsel, and it states, we're seeking approval of a bond under 6632-113E of the Timeshare Act to allow for removal of deposits from escrow prior to completion of construction of the buildings. A form of bond is attached. So instead of the escrow agreement, they have drafted a surety bond, which has been provided to you. You can look it over. I'll give you a second to look it over, and then I'll talk to you some more.
You just read Part E. That's a proposed new Part E.
No, it is.
It's not in this book.
At the bottom. Small e.
Okay.
Do they say why? I mean, why do they want the ability to maneuver their escrow account in this fashion? What benefit are they looking for?
So they haven't stated explicitly why, but they are constructing, as you can see here, there's an addendum of the buildings that are going to be completed, several new cabins to be added to the timeshare project. And so what the statute states is it gives you the discretion to allow them to essentially accept a different financial assurance other than an escrow agreement. And so the only ones that are listed here are performance bond or an irrevocable letter of credit. But those are just examples, but a surety bond is another example of a financial assurance here. And so, but due to that, and it's the Commission's decision, I brought this to you for your consideration. So they have provided, in addition to this, receipts that evidence all of their what's going on with the building, with the construction, with everyone. I didn't print it because it's over 100 pages.
Thank you.
For you to consider, and it's just essentially receipts and plans and contracts with the companies to make the building. And so basically what they need here is the ability to use this surety bond to execute.
Who's the surety bond from?
The surety bond will be between, they didn't disclose what the company is.
Well, that's big. I mean, now we're in a situation where we're going to underwrite the credit of who's coming up with a surety bond, and how big are they, and what kind of track record do they have, and all these kind of things that go with underwriting financials. I mean, it's a Bank of America, that's a pretty easy thing, but if it's some, 2-year-old bonding company.
National Bank of Steve Quinn.
Right. I mean, I can do a surety bond, but that's not, that's not going to be all that great.
But my understanding of what I've looked at between this, their ability to execute the surety bond and attaining the funding, that would be on their onus. Like, we would need an executed agreement to be returned back to us, because that is something that's required to be on file. So if they're not able to obtain funding of the surety bond, that would be something that the timeshare company would have to do. We are not the individuals that hold the bond.
Right. Steve's saying they're like AAA plus rated insurance company, or they're a C company.
Right.
Is a difference.
That's what I'm trying to understand
But
the
we don't
credit.
make those evaluations now.
You don't make those evaluations now. All they're required to do is provide us that financial assurance that meets the requirements in A, B, and C of A. But we don't make evaluations of the financial institutions that individuals enter into.
And the purpose of these instruments is to ensure that the development company has the funds to complete the project.
Correct.
And a surety bond is an alternative to what is in the statute.
Yes. And I did talk to one of our attorneys in the securities division to see if surety bond would be okay. And he said it was another, an instrument that could be used as a financial assurance. But I understand the concern about what the financial institution is, but we don't normally make those evaluations. I don't really think that's our place to make those evaluations. It hasn't come up yet. But in the past, I know in the timeshare programs that are required to submit these escrow agreements to us, we're not checking the financial institutions to see if they're I don't know what letters you guys said, A, B, C, D, bond, whatever, to see if that.
Lawyer.
Yeah. Can't math, can't security. I have hired someone to do that. But yeah, so we're looking to make sure that it meets the requirements per statute.
So, but I'm sure there's some kind of accountability available under the United States or something like that. If something were to happen to that surety bond or that escrow, that meant there was fraud or that wasn't adequately funded or something, there's some laws or statutes out there that would come down on them. So, but it wouldn't be Trek.
Well, it'd be the person buying the timeshare unit.
Right, but
that would lose.
But it wouldn't fall under our jurisdiction anyway. And it's not in the Broker Act, except limited.
I think, but that would be the same if it was if we had just the regular escrow agreement, or if they brought us an irrevocable letter of credit, or another type of bond. If the bond were to fail, and that individual were to provide, let us know, then I think I don't know, this is me thinking out loud and working with you. My thought would be that like we would do beforehand. So if an individual is like, hey, my real estate agent, turned tail and did whatever, they file a complaint against us, but the actual action of what happens is like a private action. Then they would need to file with, I guess, the bond company or whoever the money people are to get their money back in that instance. Our job is to make sure that we have an instrument that meets the statutory requirements on file.
It would go elsewhere to get the
right. We cannot finance 46,146,508.
This section in here is to protect the consumer for
right.
purchases a timeshare unit that isn't finished.
Right.
So they're putting up money, and it's going in an escrow account. What he's using that escrow account to finance his construction, a part of it. So if he can go get a bond, if somebody puts up 10 grand and he's only got 10,000, but he's found a bonding company that would take 10 and give him 20, meaning he's leveraging it, okay, that's a better deal for him. And then we're getting into a lot of
You are. I don't think our
if we
obligation-
agree to the bonding situation.
Right. It's an acceptable instrument under the
Yeah.
statute for them to go and
Right.
have an escrow account for their project. It's security. It's
But
how good it is.
doesn't
how-
say in here the validity of the security of the bonding
Right.
company.
Well, because we're not qualified to say that they're,
Right.
that they're.
I don't know when it's even.
So, but we are qualified to say you can use that bonding, this kind of bond, no matter who issues it. We're saying you can use this kind of bond for your timeshare project. We're not getting into whether it's good, bad, or any other status. As I see it. And I'm hoping that's true because I don't want to get into it. That's too steep of a learning curve, I think.
We're not saying they can use the escrow money to construct the building. We're saying that if the escrow money would go away, this bond's going to pay them for it, right? I mean, we're not saying there's nothing in this document that says they can use the escrow money for construction, right? It's just guaranteeing that if they take escrows, that they're going to be made whole by this bonding company if something would go wrong. Correct.
It says in lieu of escrows, the commission shall have the discretion to accept a performance bond. Well, is that what this is supposed to be?
Instead of them depositing $46
Right.
million in an account and us holding it in an escrow or that letter from a bank, they just get a bond that says if this project does not get completed, we're on the hook. The insurance company's on the hook.
Run the same risk.
Correct.
What do you need from us? You need us to say what, Anna?
The statutory provision states it gives the commission the discretion to accept other financial assurances. So we would need your permission to accept the surety bond presented by the commission. If you believe that you would like additional information related to it,
So in this,
we
in
can.
in this text we're looking at, this was prepared by their attorneys?
Correct. And the only, I have presented it to you as is. I provided the redactions because I wasn't sure about whether I should disclose which timeshare company it is, but I do not have the name of the surety company. If that's something you'd like me to obtain, I can go back to them and ask and bring it back to you in April.
The way the statute's written, it doesn't say we have much discretion over.
It gives you the discretion to accept it. So you can say yes, you can use the surety bond, or you can say no, you cannot.
But we can also do some further research on our end to see what we can and cannot disclose to the commission and present that in April. So we can double check to see if we can say the name of the company, if it's, Acme or.
It's not our problem, but this developer has a clock ticking too, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't advise we wait.
I'm number 3 in this deal, Anna. It seems like it puts the commission in a situation that you've got to decide on whether somebody defaults or not. The commission or the escrow agent may declare this bond in default, and the surety is required to refund deposits that are due and payable to timeshare buyers, or transfer deposits which are to be transferred into the escrow account as required within 30 days. Well, is that not putting us kind of in the middle of this thing? I mean, if it says, or transfer to the commission or escrow agent may declare this bond in default. Well, we have to go read what the bond papers say and all that. I mean,
Hold on 1 second.
I know you said they said this type of bond would meet that requirement, but has legal looked at this particular letter?
Have we?
Got a legal opinion on what this is written like?
New territory for our office or for
So-
Trek in general.
It states. So if we're looking at B2, it states in B2, if the buyer defaults in the performance of the buyer's obligations under the contract or purchase and sale, the funds shall be paid to the developer together with any interest earned. So that, and then it also requires that the developer obtain protection for non-defaulting purchasers in compliance with another provision of the statute, which is found in D1B. But we did not look at the specifics of the surety bond as it was written. As when looking at it, the issue of first impression, first of all, and then secondly, my understanding was I wanted to see if this is even something we can move forward with in the first place. So if edits are needed to be made to the surety bond related to that, I don't think that would be mutually exclusive of your ability to say yes or no. Does that make sense?
His point is well taken about the commission involved. It is stated in part.
And that can be submitted back to their council.
Through they pull their bond. It just seems like we're in some
Like what?
in some weird waters. I mean, if they pull the bond, do we have the power to stop them from taking any more escrows? Or, I mean, this is saying that, 3 months in, they just don't like the relationship. They've got $1 million in escrow. They're still building, and the surety bond gets pulled. They're reliable for that first $1 million, it says here. But if they take some more escrow, do they have to stop selling till they get us a bond or a new letter from the bank or new cash in escrow? How do we enforce that?
Again, I'm not sure, but I also don't know related to the other escrow agreements what happens related to that in those situations. So I don't have an answer for you.
But I mean, even like if we were to say no to this, or if we were to defer, there are other escrow options for this developer other than a surety bond, right?
Right. I understand they're
We're not stopping them if
Surety
we
bond.
say we want to educate ourselves a little bit more before we say yes or no.
We're definitely developer. The 46 million. What was it? Revocable letter.
Irrevocable letter of credit.
Bonds easy. You've seen bonds, Steve, on big commercial developments, and that's kind of the way you go. I mean, this is pretty normal protocol. It's that we're involved is what we don't feel like is normal protocol, in my opinion.
So if it is
Right.
that the commission is not comfortable with a surety bond and the way that the bond, like the security itself, is set up, related to the protection for the consumers, it is my understanding interpretation of the statute that you can say no to that. And so then in that instance, they would be either left with the escrow agreement or to come back with another financial assurance for your permission to
But could we require, I mean, to Joe's point about them pulling the bond early, could we require that they notify us of that choice, the decision that they're coming in, so that we know what's happening? Or, is there some referral that we can make to another government agency that would allow us to further protect the consumer? His point's well taken. They can decide to go and pull the bond, and before we find out about it, it's 3, 4, 5 months down the road.
It says within 30 days we got to be noticed, but temporary restraining.
And we don't know how the notices track with any other notice provisions. They may or may not line up with the consumer notice. Maybe there's different dates. I mean, there's a lot to this that.
I'm getting a sense that we're not going to be able to do this today.
No, so what I'm understanding is also, so I'll talk with their counsel and explain to them, the concern with the surety bond, specifically with pulling the surety bond early and what position that may leave consumers in, and then ask them if they're amenable to considering a provision to add in related to notifying the commission if the bond has been pulled. They can always, of course, say no to that since it's not a statutory requirement. But again, they don't have the approval of using a surety bond anyway, so it might be something that they decide. But what I'm hearing right now, and tell me if I'm wrong, is no. As it is, no. The surety bond we're concerned about the stability of the bond and what it may lead consumers in if it were to be.
Is this a new statute? How have you not seen? I mean,
it's not new, but no one talks. I don't talk to people about escrow. I mean, it's not that I'm not aware of it, but I've never had anyone ask me for escrow related issue.
And my question is, am I mistaken that a surety bond is a performance bond? Yes. So why, right?
But there's parameters in there. I mean, performance means perform what? I mean,
my question is, if there's nothing different from what the statute says here, why are they bringing it? And I'm not clear on why do we got to see this? Because the Timeshare Act.
Because we have the discretion.
I know, but but it says.
Which means we can say yes or no.
Yeah.
Well,
and so
what about Section A where it's mentioned surety bonds?
Right. So Section A where it mentions surety bonds.
The developer, prior to withdrawal of any funds, posts a surety bond, a irrevocable letter, or financial assurance.
Right. But, so it's mentioned in there. So obviously it's something that people can use, but specifically E is the waiver request that was submitted to me from the attorney on behalf of the timeshare company. And so that's why I've brought it to you today. And it states in the statute that we have the discretion to accept other ones. But I will say, as Commissioner Gahn has pointed out, surety bond is already mentioned within the statute.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that this is the first time a surety bond was used as an instrument in a development project.
It's the first time we've been notified.
First time we've been
Right.
told about it.
It's the first time someone has followed the statute, probably.
Yeah.
But
I was telling Commissioner Bagley, I was like, they might regret asking the question if we go any further.
I don't see anything.
Is this the 125% part? In A, the developer can post a surety bond in an amount equal to 125% of the cost to complete. So it's got a factor that if it costs $25 million to complete, then you got to put up 25 times 1.25. And the developer shall be required to submit cost and financial data as the commission may reasonably require, which could involve audited financials, all kinds of stuff.
so that they did submit receipts, 100 pages worth of receipts and contracts and plans for what they choose to use the addendum for these cabins.
But
So
that would apply to all the other instruments that are presented as well, the letter of credit and everything
Right.
else. So
Yep.
it's
still
still
the
the same.
I make a motion to approve this. I think that these folks have just followed, they've had an attorney that's found this in a statute and said you need to do this. I mean,
Do we need a
From
motion,
the
or is the statute sufficient as written?
I think we need a motion. It states that it gives you the discretion to accept it, and so for me, when I read that, it says you need to say yes or no.
Be agreeing to accept surety bonds as an instrument, not necessarily
No,
this.
I think it's on a case-by-case basis.
Voting on this, right here,
You
this.
got a motion, you need a second.
We got a motion to accept, yes.
I'll do a second.
Second.
So I got a motion by Commissioner Begley to accept this surety bond agreement, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion carries on a 6 aye, 1 no vote. Commissioner Gwynn voting no. Further business, council. Ms. Baker.
Thank you for the lively discussion. We appreciate your guidance.
Mr. White, anything else for us?
I'm going to be a securities attorney now. I clearly know so much.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners have anything else?
We will meet again on April 10th. We are anticipating a hearing on April 11th.
In Jackson?
No, sir.
Here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jackson is in May.
Okay.
We're anticipating a hearing to start on the 10th and continue on the 11th.
Likely for that, how likely is that for to be continued again?
We have about 8 weeks to figure it out.
8 weeks to figure it out. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the February meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission. Everybody travel safe and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.